Taylor.
Both of them are.
So Trump tweeted out something about mail-in ballots being ripe for abuse and that they were sending them to everyone in California, even if they're not registered to vote. And then Twitter fact-checked it. And somehow the pro community, they hate fact-checking. And but like I guess the right in general always fusses. They feel like the fact-checkers are biased. What's your take on it? Is it okay to fact-check the president?
I haven't followed the mail-in ballot thing. I don't know what the big to do. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Maybe there is fraud going on with it. Maybe not. I have no fucking idea. But yeah,
I'll talk about it.
You shouldn't be able to add editorial onto things. So like, isn't that the kind of thing where it's like social media sites have to agree that they're either purveyors or publishers of content? There's some sort of line there. Maybe you can clarify for me more.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? AT&T is never held responsible for our phone conversation, right? Yeah. Everyone agrees AT&T is not like a newspaper, a publisher, what have you. That's us. All they do is provide the line. So but sometimes sites like
commentary and removed supplemented stuff you said, then
let me get there. Yeah. But on the opposite end of the spectrum is something like a newspaper who creates all their content. And somewhere in the middle, hard to get perfect, are sites like Reddit or Twitter or Facebook, where, I'm the one doing the talking on Facebook, but somehow, or buying an ad on Facebook, but somehow Facebook is also held responsible for misinformation and in a way that we don't hold. So they're in between a newspaper and a telephone line, and they can't seem to do it in a way that everyone agrees is a good job. So Twitter has a policy that says, like, if you try to mislead me about voting, like if you tell me that we're doing voting on Thursday this year, Twitter will fact check it now and say, no. You're trying to get Woody to miss the election by 2 days by telling him it's Thursday. It's actually Tuesday, right? So that's a thing. Trump went out.
Like that. Yeah, that's you. That is a lot of power you're giving to someone who runs a company that basically controls the current method by which we communicate with each other. Like you can't be having companies like Facebook and Twitter jumping in and being, and in a lot of these, they're going to be editorializing because people have their own opinions, their own thoughts. And so like, no, this is a slippery slope to head down. So that's risky.
It is a slippery slope. I agree. But I picked that one because I thought it was on firm footing. The whole like, Taylor, November 5th, Thursday, don't forget to vote, when it's really November 3rd, Tuesday. Like, that's an area where I thought we'd all agree, like, oh, well, you don't want like people doing campaigns of tricking, maybe targeting black people, for example, and giving them the wrong date. You push that out enough and people will miss the vote date. They'll get it wrong.
You can't it's the whole you give a mouse a cookie thing. Like, you can't give these companies like Facebook, Twitter, that have their own vested interests and alliances and relationships with people on Capitol Hill and whatnot. Like, you can't give them that sort of carte blanche to editorialize an ad and remove shit wherever they want. That's risky. Okay. I don't know all the details and everything, but yeah, I'm definitely always in favor of more free speech.
Okay.
Like, more, speech.
It's less fact checking, really. They're not removing anybody's tweets.
It's not their place to fact check. And if you don't think they'll be removing people's tweets before too long, they will. And they already do by suspending certain accounts and getting rid of people. So like, yeah, I'm very, and it's not just Twitter. It's like all of these sites and these basically technocracy companies that control the way the free square is now of speaking. That's risky.
So risky. The current event is this. Trump tweeted out, it really breaks down to two things. One I'm okay with and one I'm not. He said mail-in voting is really susceptible to fraud and thievery and trickery. He also said everyone's going to get a ballot even if they're not registered to vote. Now, the second part, in my mind, is clear-cut. Not to you, it would seem. But in my mind, it's like, ooh, he's going to convince people they don't need to register to vote. I find that to be uncool, right? You shouldn't lie about the voting process and stuff. The part about mail-in voting being susceptible to fraud, I'm on the same team there.
It makes sense that it would be, right? Like a lot less security.
So here in North Carolina, that happened. It happened in 2018, our last election, House of Representatives, right? Not some little bullshit, like school district assistant. federal representative, House of Congress. The Republicans did it, but it could have been either side. It could be either side. They took thousands of ballots from one county and threw them away, and because of that, they declared the election to be invalid. When really the Democrats should have won. Like you can statistically predict how the absentee ballots would come out based on all the other ones. But it's like the Republicans won absentee ballots by 92%. That's weird. But if you were to guess they were like all the other votes, then the Democrats would have won. And so that election became invalid. They held like a midterm 2019 or something, and the Republicans won that. And it's like, it worked. It worked. Now, it kind of didn't work in that people are in jail now because of it. Like, it's not a conspiracy theory.
Worked that well, then.
Yeah, they found out where the money went, who the actors were, and the people who did the physical part and were behind it are in prison. So
my big thing is I think it's really short-sighted and foolish to give companies like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, Google, if it's 2020 and you haven't figured out how incestuous these companies are with people on Capitol Hill and with these politicians and whatnot, like, come on, get with it. Like these people have vested interests in certain things. And if you don't think they're going to use every bit of power they have to get that, and whether it means manipulating information or cutting things off or stifling people, shadow banning, whatever, it's bad news. It's bad news. I don't know enough about the voting thing to really weigh in. I don't know how fraudulent mail-in voting is, but yeah, it's not a good idea to give those companies this power.
It can be. So on the voting thing, to shift into the topic, I'm of two minds. On one hand, I feel like the Republicans always work to have lower voter turnout, right? They want to shorten the amount of time that you can vote. Like if the Democrats were in charge, you get a whole fucking voting month.
Oh, definitely. Like Republicans want to slow it down, and Democrats want to do like, hey, you don't even need ID. Anyone can vote. Just walk on in, even if you're not technically a citizen.
Let me keep going. So so the Democrats are always like, more votes are better because they do better under big turnout. And the Republicans are always, tightening it down, usually under the guise of fraud, but there really isn't any fraud. Trump came in, said they found like actually zero fraud. You said there was fraud though. On the mail-in voting thing. Okay, so that's fair. Touche. But I guess I was talking about people who weren't supposed to vote, not stolen votes. But anyway, so that's the thing. Now, Democrats want to make voting easier by doing this mail-in thing, but I don't know that I agree with the Democrats on this one because we just had like fraud.
A Corona thing?
Yes.
Where it's like, okay.
But I don't know that, okay. Well,
like, topically to me.
Now, here's Conspiracy Woody saying you're using Corona to get something you've always wanted.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I find it really fascinating. I like to watch the chess of it. Now the Democrats are using Corona to make voting more convenient, which is always in the Democrats' favor. And the Republicans are, in this case, I think, legitimately challenging the potential fraud. And that's where it is. It's so I thought, I don't know. I wanted to hear your take on it because I expected you to be on the other side of it, where you'd say Twitter, Facebook, all the Googles, they shouldn't be fact-checking. They shouldn't be inserting their 2 cents.
Yeah, I firmly stand by that. Like, you cannot allow these giant tech companies to be the arbiter of speech. That's really fucking risky, especially when, what if the person who decides to fact-check decides, that's a little lie, but I like that lie. That's a good lie. That helps what I want. And if people don't think that's going to happen, you're a fucking retard. Like, obviously that will happen.
And you're kind of winning me over. These powers can have precedence, right? So sometimes I think like, all right, let's say you love Trump, right? And now you grant Trump this power. Trump can decide who's allowed to leave their front door or not, right? With this Corona thing, it's incredibly Trump's power beginning to end. That might be cool. But remember, someday you'll hate your president. Someday it's going to be the equivalent of Hillary. Not actually Hillary, but work with me. And you'll regret that you gave that power to the president when you liked him. So
exactly.
And that's where I am. Like, even if right now I don't feel like Twitter and Google have bad intent, you want to give them that power, right? Because someday they will.
Basically, the way I would put it, do you ever want to say something to the left of Nancy Pelosi or to the right of Marco Rubio? If no, then awesome. Have these companies control speech. Have them control it, because you're going to be sandwiched between a couple of milk toast opinions that you're allowed to have, and that'll be it.
Right.
And it's going to happen either slowly or very quickly. Who knows? But it's going to happen.
Jack Dorsey, that's the guy's name in charge of Twitter right now, right?
Yeah.
Not you, but the listener might politically agree with Dorsey and think that it's okay to give him that power. But just wait. Someday there'll be a different guy with that job, or something other than Twitter who's able to leverage this precedent.
Yeah.
And you'll be unhappy that now they're the arbiter of truth.
I'm very sensitive to any kind of what feels like encroachment or manipulation of our ability to speak freely. And you have to look at the internet as the online public square. That's what it is now. That's where, especially with shit like Corona, if you can't speak your mind on the internet, talking about politics, what have you, like where can you speak? It's very bad news.
I don't have an answer, because what I want is for everyone to know the truth and then debate on how to make our real reality better. What I don't want is for everyone to get bamboozled by bad actors. And then, we don't even deal with the same reality that we're trying to improve. The problem is, I don't know how to get truth out there. And you're winning me over that having Twitter and Facebook do it for us is probably a bad plan.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it seems like a terrible idea to me. These boards are constantly changing. The investors are constantly changing, and they're very influential people who are part of,
I just need a good plan. I don't think it's having the government regulate it. That's a scary plan.
And then you say, oh, the free market will decide who says that. And I used to be more on that team. And over time, it was like, oh, wait, this doesn't fucking work at all, because companies like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Google are no longer that incentivized by profit margins, because they know there's no one who's coming on their tails. Bing? You think Bing is scaring Google? You think DuckDuckGo is scaring Google or YouTube? Of course not.
I only use Ask Jeeves.
Well, it was Ask before it died, I think, right? Ask.com.
It was.
Yeah,
I liked when it was Ask Jeeves and it had that old-timey butler.
That was the best part of Ask Jeeves, is thinking about like, oh, this guy's going to answer about my potentially chlamydia I have, but in a classy way.
Yeah.
When I'm Googling symptoms and things. So I did like that about Ask Jeeves. Google doesn't give you any flair anymore. All they'll do is like have a celebratory Google doodle about someone who died in 1802 and basically did nothing. It's like, hey, this guy fucking, he invented artificial banana flavoring. How's that?
I never use the Google homepage anymore. It used to be the Google homepage was kind of celebrated for how simple it was. Now I use my URL bar, and I have for so long, I don't even see the doodles.
Yeah, I don't really follow either. Oh,